welcome to the news update on AFRICUNIA television, reaching you from our studio in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, Nigeria. I am Deborah Ezeh. Many thanks for joining me. We begin from Nigeria. The National Security Council meeting yesterday, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, declared operations of the National Task Force on Prohibition of Illegal Importation and Smuggling of Arms, Ammunition, Light Weapons, Chemical Weapons, and Pipeline Vandalism, that is the NATFORCE, is illegal. Minister of Interior Ralph Aregbesola, who briefed newsmen along with his police affairs counterpart, Mohammed Dingyadi, after the council meeting, advised NATFORCE leadership to disband immediately. The Senate had in July passed into law the bill establishing the commission, while the House of Representatives is expected to pass its version upon resumption in September 2022. Aregbesola said the task force is an illegal body. There was never a time the Nigerian government set it up with any legislative instrument or power. Fielding questions on the outcome of the council meeting, Aregbesola said members commended security agencies for the relative peace in the country. And now moving on, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, yesterday maintained that since the end of the continuous voter registration exercise, no fresh registrant was added or subtracted from the voters' register. In a related development, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has tasked INEC and other agencies of government playing roles in the electoral process to ensure that the outcome of the 2023 election was a true reflection of the desire of the people. However, INEC, reacting to the press conference addressed by the coalition of united political parties on the register of voters for the 2023 general election, said it recognized and respected the rights of citizens, either as individuals or groups, to demand explanation from public agencies, including itself, and to hold them accountable. But the Commission said it was always important that caution was exercised so that such interventions did not unwittingly sow doubt in the public mind, thereby diminishing public confidence and trust in the electoral process. In a statement by INEC National Commissioner in charge of information and Chairman of Voter Education, Festus Okocha, INEC said it is important to reiterate that no new registrant has yet been added to register or to the register of voters for the 2023 general election, or will be included until these supplemental activities have been completed in line with the law. Accordingly, he said that the abbase for the period of registration between 15th January and 31st July was being concluded presently, and the outcome in terms of multiple and ineligible records will be made public. Away from Nigeria, Angolan President João Lourenço pledged on Thursday to be the president of all Angolans during his inauguration for his second term in the capital, Luanda. The ceremony took place under a heavy security presence after elections results were disputed by the opposition. The Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, that is the MPLA, in power since independence from Portugal, won the election held on the 24th of August with 51.17% of the vote. Its lowest ever score, that is the main opposition party, the National Union for Independence, that is UNITA, which received 43.95% of the votes, according to the Electoral Commission, claimed to have won the election according to its own count. The opposition rejected the results and appealed to the Constitutional Court. The appeal was rejected earlier this month, while some 15,000 strictly selected Angolans were invited to the ceremony, which was to be attended by some 50 heads of state and government, including Portuguese President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. The MPLA lost the two-thirds majority in parliament, which allowed it to pass laws without support of another party. Meanwhile, flooding across Sudan has killed at least 20 people over the past week, raising the official death toll from the flood since the rainy season began in May to 134. The office of Brigadier General Abdul Jalil Abdul Rahim, the leader of Sudan's National Council for Civil Defense, said an additional 120 people were injured from the past week's flooding. Torrential downpours throughout August and early September, the peak of Sudan's rainy season, have washed away roads, houses, and vital infrastructure across the country, cutting off supply lines to rural areas in need of humanitarian aid. According to the United Nations' latest flooding report, some 286,400 people have been affected by the flood and 16,900 homes have been destroyed. The Civil Defense Council said this year's deaths included 74 people who drowned, 32 who died when their homes collapsed, and 6 who were killed in water-related electrocutions. Still on the African scene, the IMF has called on governments in sub-Saharan Africa to be cautious about macroeconomic reforms as famine spreads in a region badly affected by the aftermath of COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine. Addressing the lack of resilience to climate change and to the resulting chronic food insecurity will require careful prioritization of politics or policies given financial and capital constraints. The fund says in a new report, according to its estimate, at least 123 million people, or about 12% of the population of sub-Saharan Africa, may be acutely food insecure, severely malnourished, or unable to meet their basic food needs. The impact on economies of the COVID-19 pandemic has combined with a spike in grain prices fueled by the war in Ukraine, the IMF also points out. Despite the many challenges, some trade, regulatory, and market liberalization reform are feasible as recalibrated monetary policies could mitigate the impact on domestically produced goods and anchor inflation, it also said. We'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, it's updates making the rounds on the foreign scene. Just stay with me. And now welcome back on to the foreign scene. Russia's lower house of parliament will consider summoning Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu to face questioning in a closed section. Senior lawmaker Sergei Marinov was cited as saying by Kommersant newspaper on Thursday. It is virtually unknown for the State Duma to summon a defense minister to account for himself. However, Russia's armed forces have been openly criticized by military commentators this week after losing control of large parts of Ukraine's Kharkiv region to a lightning advance by Ukrainian forces. Mironov, a strong supporter of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and head of small pro-Kremlin Just Russia party, was quoted as saying that the State Duma Council, which manages the chamber's business, will discuss the matter on Monday. Mironov had tweeted on Wednesday that his party had proposed a section with Shoigu so that the deputies can speak with him behind closed doors and ask all the questions that interest us and the citizens, he said. Now moving on, El Salvador President Nayib Bukele said he would run for re-election despite the country's constitution prohibiting presidents from having consecutive terms. Bukele's current term is set to end in 2024, although the constitution forbids a president from being re-elected immediately after a term in office. The Supreme Court, composed of judges appointed by lawmakers of Bukele party, ruled in 2021 that a second consecutive term was permissible. That move was slammed by the United States and drew fears of a return to authoritarianism in El Salvador. Shortly after the ruling, the U.S. State Department said it marked a decline in democratic governance that damaged its relationship with the Central American country. Bukele has enjoyed high approval rating since it took office in 2019. According to a poll carried out last month by CID Gallup, 85% approve of his presidency and 95% of his governance in security matters. Still on the foreign scene, Taiwan is eyeing an earlier end to its mandatory quarantine for all arrivals and has been making relevant preparations, Premier Su Tseng said on Friday, as the government continues to ease controls put in place to contain the spread of COVID-19. Taiwan has kept its entry and quarantine rules in place as large parts of the rest of Asia have relaxed or lifted them completely, though in June it cut the number of days spent in isolation for arrivals to 3 from 7 previously. Taiwan has reported more than 5.7 million domestic cases since the beginning of the year, driven by the more infectious Omicron variant. With more than 99% of those showing symptoms or no or mild symptoms, the government has relaxed rather than tightened restriction in its new Taiwan model. Although it has not given a timeline for when quarantine rules may be scrapped, Su said that while the cases were gradually ticking up at the moment, that was in line with expectation. Taiwan Center for Disease Control Deputy Director General Shang said this week it was possible the quarantine rule will be lifted entirely next month. Up next, the headlines making the rounds on the sports scene. Just stay with me. And now that concludes the news updates on AFRICUNIA television. Do follow all our social media platforms displaying on your screen, and you can link us up on www.africunia.tv. Once again, hi, I'm Deborah Ezeh. Have a beautiful weekend.